Silent Nights. Detective Mark and Detective Laura were assigned to a case of a brutal murder that happened at a small convenience store in the city. The store owner, Mr. Lee, was found dead with multiple stab wounds, and all the evidence found at the scene was inconclusive. The detectives started investigating the case by interviewing all the witnesses and neighbors in the area. They heard about a deaf woman who lived near the store, and people said that she was the only one who was walking on the street around the time of the murder. Mark and Laura were skeptical at first, but they decided to investigate it further. They went to the deaf woman's house, and as they approached her door, they could hear her signing with someone. They waited for a moment, and then knocked on the door. The woman, named Anna, opened the door and signed, "Hello, how can I help you?" Mark and Laura introduced themselves and explained that they were investigating the murder of Mr. Lee. They asked if Anna had seen or heard anything unusual around the time of the murder. Anna signed back that she had been walking home from her evening class and had passed by the store. She said that she saw someone leaving the store but couldn't see their face. The detectives were disappointed, but then they noticed something strange about Anna. She seemed nervous and hesitant to communicate with them, even though they were communicating in sign language. They asked if they could come in and ask her some more questions, and Anna agreed. As they sat down, Laura noticed that Anna's lips were moving slightly, as if she was trying to say something. Laura asked Anna if she could read lips, and Anna nodded. Laura then asked Anna to repeat what she had just said. Anna hesitated for a moment and then signed, "I saw him." Mark and Laura were surprised. They asked her who she saw, and Anna replied that she saw the murderer. The detectives were skeptical, but they decided to investigate it further. They asked Anna to describe what she saw, and she signed that she saw a man leaving the store, wearing a black hoodie and blue jeans. She said that she couldn't see his face, but she recognized the hoodie as one that belonged to her neighbor, John. Mark and Laura were shocked. John was a well-known member of the community and had never been in trouble with the law before. They decided to bring John in for questioning. As they questioned John, he denied any involvement in the murder. He said that he had been home all night watching TV. Mark and Laura didn't believe him, so they decided to search his house. As they searched, they found a bloody hoodie that matched the description given by Anna. John was arrested and taken into custody. Mark and Laura were praised for their work on the case, and Anna was hailed as a hero for providing the crucial piece of evidence that led to John's arrest. But the unexpected ending came when John's lawyer presented a strong alibi in court. He had been out of town on the night of the murder, but there was no evidence to prove it. The evidence against him was strong, and he was found guilty at trial. Mark and Laura were shocked and confused. As they revisited the case, they realized that Anna had a motive for framing John. They discovered that Anna and John had been involved in a bitter feud over a property dispute for years. They also discovered that Anna had a history of mental illness and had been known to act erratically in the past. As they pieced together the evidence, they became convinced that Anna was the real killer. The one that got away. As I walked into the ballroom of our 10-year high school reunion, I couldn't help but feel nervous. I hadn't seen most of my classmates in years, and I didn't know what to expect. But as I scanned the room, I saw her. Emily, my high school sweetheart. She looked just as beautiful as she did 10 years ago. We had dated for 3 years in high school, but when we went to college, we drifted apart. I went to one school and she went to another. We tried to make it work long distance, but it just didn't happen. And before we knew it, we had lost touch. But now, as I looked at her, I felt something stir inside me. I realized that I had never stopped loving her. I walked over to her, and she smiled as she saw me approach. "Hi, Max," she said, her voice as sweet as ever. "Hey, Emily," I said. "It's been a while." "It has," she said. "How have you been?" "I've been good," I said. "How about you?" "I've been good too," she said. "I'm living in the city now, working as a marketing manager for a tech company." "That's great," I said, impressed. "What about you?" she asked. "I'm a lawyer now," I said. "I work for a big firm downtown." "That's impressive," she said, smiling. We spent the night chatting, laughing, and catching up. As the evening went on, the sexual tension between us continued to build. The more we talked, the more we realized how much we still wanted each other. As the party started winding down, Emily suggested we go for a walk outside to get some fresh air. We made our way to a secluded area near the riverbank, and without any hesitation, she wrapped her arms around my neck, pulling me in for a kiss. "You know, Max," she said, looking at me with those big, beautiful eyes, "I never forgot about you." "I never forgot about you either," I said, my heart pounding. "I always wondered what could have been," she said, taking a sip of her drink. "Me too," I said, my eyes locked on hers. Suddenly she reached out and took my hand. "Let's find out," she said. And just like that, we were together again. We spent the next few weeks getting to know each other again. We went on dates and talked for hours. It was like we were making up for lost time. And then, on a quiet evening, I took her to a romantic spot by the river. We sat on a blanket, watching the stars above. "Emily," I said, taking her hand, "I love you. I never stopped loving you. I don't want to waste any more time." "I love you too, Max," she said, her eyes shining with emotion. And with that, I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said yes, and we hugged each other tightly, tears streaming down our faces. The wedding was beautiful. We exchanged vows in front of our closest friends and family, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have her back in my life. As we danced our first dance as husband and wife, I whispered in her ear, "I never want to lose you again." "You won't," she said, smiling up at me, and I knew she was right. We had been given a second chance at love, and we weren't going to waste it. Memories. Jane sat nervously in the sleek, sterile waiting room of the Memory Emporium, a high-end store that specializes in buying and selling memories. She fidgeted with the hem of her dress, trying to calm her racing heart. She had never done anything like this before, but the ache in her heart was too great to ignore. It had been 6 months since her beloved husband, Michael, had passed away from cancer. Jane was still reeling from the loss, struggling to find meaning in life without him. Then she had heard about the Memory Emporium and the possibility of buying artificially produced memories of loved ones. The idea seemed absurd at first, but the more she thought about it, the more it seemed like a lifeline. The door to the back room opened, and a tall, impeccably dressed man stepped out. He introduced himself as the memory dealer and led Jane to a private room lined with shelves of crystal vials. "What kind of memory are you looking for?" he asked, his voice smooth as silk. "A memory of a perfect day with my husband," Jane replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The memory dealer nodded and selected a vial from the shelf. He held it up to the light, examining its contents. "This one is perfect," he said, handing it to Jane. "It was recorded by a couple celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. It's one of the most beautiful memories I've ever seen." Jane took the vial and held it up to the light. Inside, she could see glimpses of a park, a picnic, and a couple holding hands. She felt a lump rise in her throat and handed over the payment without hesitation. As she left the Emporium, vial safely tucked away in her purse, Jane felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in months. She couldn't wait to relive a perfect day with Michael, even if it was a fake memory. Back in her apartment, Jane settled onto the couch and uncorked the vial. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, then tilted the vial back and let the memory wash over her. She was in a park, just as she had seen in the vial, but something was off. The colors were too bright, the sun too warm. She looked around, searching for Michael, but he was nowhere to be found. She continued to watch as the memory played out, but the sense of unease only grew stronger. Then, as the memory drew to a close, she saw something that made her blood run cold. In the background of the memory, barely visible, was a figure that shouldn't have been there. It was a tall, impeccably dressed man with a menacing grin on his face, watching the couple from a distance. Jane sat there for a moment, her heart racing. She realized that she had been sold a memory that had been tampered with. She rushed back to the Memory Emporium, demanding an explanation. The memory dealer met her with a calm smile. "I'm sorry, my dear, but all sales are final," he said. "It's not my fault if the memory wasn't to your liking." Jane felt tears stinging at the corners of her eyes. She had been desperate for a connection to her husband, and now she felt like she had been taken advantage of. As she turned to leave, the memory dealer called out to her. "Wait, there is one thing I can offer you," he said, his voice low and silky. "I can give you a memory of your husband's final moments. It's a beautiful memory, I promise. It will bring you peace. The dealer calmly declared with a menacing grin. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notification and leave a like. Until the next journey, thanks for watching.